Okay, welcome everyone. This is our intro cafe to the visioning. What is our vision for setting up an empathy based retreat center in Santa Barbara? We have a small group here. Everyone's familiar with the empathy circle practice, so we can just go right into it. Generally, if we had other people, I was going to just introduce myself, do a welcome of our intention, which is to raise the level of empathy, listening, and openness and care in society and in ourselves and society. And these are the values that really foster greater well-being. And so we want to promote that. We're doing the empathy circle practice, which I find is the most effective first step gateway practice for building that intention of a more empathic society. And we also have a training that people can take part in at bestempathytraining.com. So that's like a website for our 6-week empathy training. And our circle here has been an introduction to the empathy circle practice. To take part in the training, you take part in 2 of these intro circles. And we're having a different focus. We're focusing on a vision for this retreat center. And I'm going to just give a quick view of it. If you go to canoascenter.com, there's a website for this retreat center. This is a retreat center my brother purchased in Santa Barbara, California. It's on 35 acres of land. It has a bunch of buildings, 55,000 square feet of buildings. And you can go to the tour button, and that gives you a tour of the property, of the current state of the property. And there's also a Google Earth map there that you can take a look at. And if you click on that, it shows you the property. It's on top of a hill. This was previously a Catholic seminary, and my brother purchased it just several months ago, and he asked me to manage it. So we're going to be setting up an empathy center there. And it backs up to the hills of Santa Barbara, so National Forest. And this is Santa Barbara, you can see here. And it's only it's somewhat remote, but it's only 10 minutes from downtown Santa Barbara, so in a pretty amazing location. And our goal is to make an empathy center there to hold workshops and all kinds of programs that promote more empathic society. And so what we want to do here is have an empathy circle on that question. Let me just post the question in the chat. What is your vision for an empathy-based retreat center in Santa Barbara, or whatever's alive for you? And since everybody's familiar with the process, we can just get started. If someone wants to take time, do the timekeeping, like 5-minute turns. So who would like to start?
Larry said.
Larry held his hands up. Okay, let's just get started. Pick your listener and let's get started. We'll maybe just go for an hour and a half, so 90 minutes. We'll end a little earlier.
Okay, I had an idea. Is it okay? I have my camera.
Yeah, just select your listener.
Okay, Edwin, I'm just gonna start with you.
Okay, listening.
I just had a news flash of well, maybe you're not gonna like this, but to have concerts. And maybe, peace concerts where there's just a relationship between the group and the concept of empathy and peace, and music and fundraisers. So I'm just throwing that out there.
So your first idea, you think that maybe I won't like it, but you're thinking it's creating concerts there, sort of peace conference, and not a conference, peace concerts. So having music.
Yeah, everyone on the lawn. And just great sound system dynamics, and I don't know, maybe related to a retreat where people are coming in from all over the world to and make it like an annual uh music alliance related to peace and certain types of music that may come from Tibet and India, maybe actually a multicultural musical
Mm.
alliance.
So you're thinking maybe a multicultural music sort of event from people from all different cultures coming to, and the topic being creating peace.
Yeah, and along the same lines, this is very similar to what I experienced at Caltrans, State of California, is we'd have a diversity day. And on the diversity day, there'd be this wonderful, everyone from all the different parts of the world would share food from, that island or that country.
So you're also imagining like a diversity day where people bring different types of foods, maybe from their own culture to it. So it could be island food or just from any different culture.
And that's not an also, but actually part of the experience, the day that, maybe having an annual get together where, it's multicultural music and food.
Yeah, it could be like every year. It could be an annual event where you have multicultural event and food and maybe even music too.
Exactly. I feel fully heard.
Okay, then I'll speak to Bill.
Listening?
Yeah, I talked to a permaculturist yesterday, and the idea is to make the center a permaculture center for that's with gardening and sort of a whole land integrated food gardening uh, center. Yeah.
So you had talked to a permaculturist yesterday, and essentially the idea would be to make the retreat center part of an ongoing, sustainable,
Hmm.
um, concern.
Yeah, and the permaculture ties in with empathy in the sense that permaculture and regenerative agriculture is sort of being more sensitive to the environment. So it's sort of like empathizing with the environment versus a domination, like we're just going to impose something that you sort of. It's more of yeah. Larry's got his heart. More of an integrated, a listening relationship, deeper relationship with the land.
Yeah, and you see a very good synergy or between permaculture and empathy in the sense that permaculture and is like kind of listening to nature, listening to the land, and creating something in harmony with it rather than just trying to dominate it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm starting to get excited about that because I like gardening. I like the physicality of it. So I have some excitement around it. And he also, an idea is, empathy. We have empathy sensing into someone's experience as well as imaginative empathy, where you take on a role. And I had some ideas for that role playing
Okay.
empathy.
So you're really excited about the permaculture. It's good. You like to garden. You like the physicality of it. It engages you in a different modality than simply just speaking. And then you're also getting some new ideas for role plays.
And it was he said, uh, imagine yourself at the center in 5 years. What is the experience that you imagine? I thought that would be a great exercise for our volunteers team. How do you see yourself in 5 years in relationship to the center? And so my brains were starting to sort of click, around that idea, and also is for us doing it as an exercise.
So what you're calling or terming imaginative empathy is the person you were speaking to said, "What do you see? What's your vision for the center in 5 years? What do you see you're going?"
No,
And you,
where are you? See yourself in it. So you
okay,
imagine yourself in relationship to the center.
okay. So you're not only just imagining the center, but imagining yourself in relation to the center.
Yeah, so I'm imagining getting up, jumping into the swimming pool, taking some laps, walking, past the gardens with, vegetables and a bunch of flowers, going into the kitchen, into the dining room, having some eggs, and, from our own chickens, honey, spreading honey on the bread, homemade bread, and the honey from our beehives. So I was certainly kind of get into the, like, really imagining kind of walking through the space, yeah, in 5 years.
So yeah, so you imagined a day, and you saw yourself getting up, taking a few laps in the pool, um, walking past the garden, getting eggs from chickens that reside at the center, spreading honey from bees that reside at the center, and so that was really, that was very vivid for you. And
Yeah. So that's sort of the role playing. So if we do that, everybody's role playing that. And then there's another part of imaginative empathy is we can imagine ourselves being the center, the empathy center, and have a dialogue like, oh, I am the center. Like, how do I feel right now? I feel lonely. I feel abandoned. Nobody's been really here for, 8 years. I feel grungy, it's like, so kind of take on the role of the center and sort of play with that just as a way of kind of getting into our imagination more.
yeah, and so another way you can use imaginative empathy is to imagine oneself as the center. And so, how do you feel now? Well, it's been abandoned for a year. I feel lonely. I want activity and things like that. So, actually taking on the persona of the retreat center yourself.
Yeah, I want love.
Well, you want love like all retreat centers do.
I feel heard. Thanks.
My pleasure. All right, Larry, I'll talk to you.
Ready.
Okay. So so I actually I think all that stuff is great, but I'm still like a little bit of a Debbie Downer here, and I was thinking of the practicalities, and so it takes about, I think Edwin said, about $300,000 a year just to keep for the status quo. So that means that based upon the money that Charles was talking about, in about 4 years, about half or a little bit more than half of that money would be gone. So my feeling is that, sorry, I'm going on so long. Well, I'll stop there then.
So I think I'm hearing you say, Bill, that while all of these things that Edwin was describing
Mm-hmm.
might sound inspiring, you're kind of a Debbie Downer, I think you said,
Yeah.
considering the practicality of $300,000 a year to maintain all of this. It's going to run into some millions of dollars, 100,000 here, 100,000 there. Before you know it, you're talking real money.
Right, exactly. And thanks for channeling Everett Dirksen. Um, and so, and no, and I love those ideas. I mean, I think that's great. But what I'm stuck on is a sequence of a workflow and a sequence of events. And so what I see, you know, basically from my understanding, I've never been down there, but from my understanding, the first thing is to really renovate, you know, even though it has been renovated, but the wing with the meeting room and the kitchen and the other rooms, you know, to make them really nice. It doesn't have to be fancy, but very nice.
So you're considering the practicality of making the facility, you know, a nice condition. There has been a lot of renovation, and there needs to be some more renovation. So you're
Right.
considering the timeline. You haven't been there yet, but you're considering, you know, what's got to be done, who's going to get it done, how long is it going to take, and what's going to cost. That kind of a practicality, I think.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. And then the other part that has to go hand in glove with that is promotion. So you have to promote it, get the word out, but then you need something so when people come there, they don't say, you know, like you never get a second chance to make a first impression, that sort of thing.
So practically speaking, you only get one chance to make a first impression. So while you do need to be promoting this, it goes hand in glove, promoting and getting it ready. When they do get there, the guests get there, it needs to be presentable because you have that one chance to make a first impression.
Right. And then for the promotion, I would think as far as is to take the empathy tent and at the weekly Santa Barbara on the Beach art show. I know that Sally said, well, if you could move the art show up there, it would be great. And I agree with that. But I think that the financial, you know, powers that be, all the restaurants and everything like that would have a hard time with that. So I don't think we'll get the art show up there, but we should go to the art show and promote.
Okay, so in practicality, like Sally says, bring the tent to the art show
Right.
before you try to bring the whole art show to the mountain.
Yeah.
Bring the tent to the art show and let
Right.
them know about it. So
Yeah.
one step
Yeah.
at a time.
Yeah. And I don't know where Muhammad is and all of that, but I don't. So yeah, so that would be, so the thing would be to, you know, very quickly make that one wing functional and then start to have a regular presence at the art show, like a weekly, and that could be rotated. So we could, you know, so that people can do it. Yeah. And that's it. And then I'm done. Thanks.
So it's coming back to the practicality of getting that one wing functional before you try to move forward,
Mm-hmm.
one step at a time kind of thing.
Right. Thanks. I feel heard, Larry.
Thank you, Bill. Let's see. Jonathan, will you be my listener?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm just trying to refresh the timer. 5 minutes. There it goes. Yeah, I like all of these inspiring ideas also.
So I hear you saying that you like these inspiring ideas.
Yeah, inspiring ideas are inspiring.
Simply put, inspiring ideas are inspiring.
Yeah. And like Bill is saying, we also have to walk, you know, one foot in front of the other in a practical manner.
And you also are recognizing what Bill is saying, that we need to plan carefully our footsteps.
Yeah. And I think that's the purpose of these meetings and visioning meetings related to the center, the Empathy Visioning Center.
And you're saying that I think I hear you saying that you like the idea of these meetings that we're having because it allows exchange of ideas and visioning for the future.
Yeah, visiting the Empathy Center by planning it through these Zoom meetings.
And so you're saying that you find it very handy that we're able to envision the use of the center and that the Zoom meetings are very convenient.
Thank you, Jonathan. I feel fully heard.
Well, you're welcome. Let's see here. Edwin, would you like to reflect a little bit for me?
Listening.
First of all, I want to say something kind of personal. I've lost track of how many meetings I've gone to, but I had a wonderful experience with Larry and his daughter. And Larry and his daughter were very open. And I found it to be one of the most just comforting and delightful experiences of my life. I just really enjoyed, they were talking a bit about personal things and they shared it with me. And I just felt good about humanity.
Well, yeah, so you're just going to really share your deep appreciation and experience with Larry and his daughter. It was just a very meaningful meeting with them. And I don't know if it was a circle you were part of together, but it was just very meaningful for you.
And I had another wonderful experience, more difficult. We had a visitor in our circle who was a counselor for victims of war crimes. And she gave us an analogy, which I've been pondering over the last week, which is a waterfall. And so the idea is that in counseling and working with someone who's been through horrific war experiences, and I believe that she meant to say that the empathy or the emotions or the resonating with this horrible experience kind of rushed through her like a waterfall. And we didn't have time to explore it, but I was thinking of my experience with a waterfall in Yosemite. And yes, there is a waterfall, but then the water calms out and then continues to flow downstream.
Yeah, so you're thinking of another circle you were part of, and it was a woman who deals with people who have been through really difficult kind of war crime kind of situations. And she had a metaphor for her experiences that is the experience, it feels like a waterfall flowing through her. And it's giving you a lot of thought about this metaphor, but you kind of extending it to say the water comes through, but then it's comes at the bottom of the pool and kind of starts settling out. And so you're sort of expanding on that metaphor.
Yes, and so these experiences is what I find valuable. It's insights into other lives, other ways of dealing with things. Now, now I'm going to be Donnie Downer to accompany Bill's Debbie Downer, and this is the way I would approach it. I think the most valuable asset is Edwin himself.
Okay, so you're going to be a Debbie something. No, not a Debbie Downer, but a Donnie Downer. And you're saying that the biggest part of this is myself. And the other part before, the first thing you're actually saying was that I think you're really appreciating sort of the personal experiences that you're having relating with Larry and his daughter and this other person. So just this personal connection is just very meaningful for you as well.
It is. So what I want to say is that I think that the center needs to develop a successful national or international podcast.
Yeah, so the center should have an international podcast. I mean, a successful one.
Yes, one that's has production value and competes with some of the podcasts. The podcasts I view on YouTube that are highly successful and have 1 million followers. Is one of them is Linus Tech Tips.
So you're just seeing that, you know, creating this very successful podcast that you're watching them, and you have good production values, and you have one that's sort of a model. Linus Tech Tips is one.
Yes, and they have Linus Tech Tips has diversified. They have about 4 or 5 different little shows, but the principal show, and I presume that's one of the chief sources of revenue, it follows a personality. And Edwin is a personality, and Edwin has made tremendous outreach to numerous people in the industry. And how could, and I see that as a vehicle to raise funds.
Yeah, so you're seeing that a lot of these podcasts have a personality, and that sort of do the outreach. I've done a lot of, you know, networking and so forth, and you're seeing that having a podcast, me being a personality doing podcasting, would be a way to fundraise.
Yes, I feel heard.
Okay, cool. I'm taking some notes here, so I'll speak to Sally.
Yeah, hi, I'm right here.
Yep, great. Yeah, I'm thinking a lot to think about here. Wanted to follow up on Bill's sort of practical workflow process. So I'll go through some of the steps that I just wrote down that we're needing to work on. I'll pause there.
Okay, you want to go through some of the practical work steps, workflows that you went through from Bill, and you're going to start to go through them.
Yeah, so the first one we're doing is cleaning up the building. So there's a lot of old furniture. There's like, you know, 100 mattresses, old junky mattresses that are decaying. So we've gotten we've done at least 2 containers so far, just kind of throwing stuff out. There's someone that works there, is the groundskeeper. He's been throwing things out, and we have all kinds of furniture that we need to sort and, you know, just clean everything up. So that's the step number 1. We're sort of in the middle of that.
Okay, so right now you're in the middle of step number 1. You're going through all of the boarding rooms and cleaning up all of the stuff and putting it in dumpsters and mattresses and things that just the only thing you can do with them is throw them out.
Yeah, and a bunch of furniture too. So, and the next thing we need to do is we have 14 bedrooms that are usable, so we need to furnish them. But that means we need a design, you know, we need to have someone that has a taste and design, and then you got to order all this, you know, mattresses, shower curtains, window curtains, you know, coat hangers. I mean, it's just like, just imagine an empty room and everything's got to be filled in there. And then somebody's got to have the style, sort of maybe interior decorator, and then they got to order it and just, you know, all that stuff. So 14 bedrooms to do that.
Okay, so next step is, once everything is cleaned, to you know, and everything's emptied out, to come up with an interior decorator who's got the style and has to come up with something unbelievable for each room for people's comfort and relaxation when they arrive and stay.
Exactly. So that's another step. Another one is there's a dormitory that needs renovation. It had, I think, like over 40 beds in it, or even 60. And we need to renovate that whole building, and that's like the biggest expense. So we need to come to some conclusion about how to renovate that building. So, and then you got to get permits, and that's like another big project.
Okay, so number 3,
Mhm.
there's another building that was like a dormitory with 40 to 60 beds in it. And you're going to have to pull permits because there's a lot of extra work that's going to require the approval of
Yeah.
the city. And then you got to clean it all up and get it up to par.
Yeah, renovate it. So that's a big project. That's the biggest one. And then there's another building that's was classrooms that were, looks like it was illegally turned into rooms. So they had like a dormitory there. And we have to figure out what to do with that building. Do we turn it into classrooms, or we try to get permits to make it into rooms? So that's like a next, sort of next big project.
So then there was this other building that appears to have been made into classrooms.
It was classrooms originally, and it was they illegally turned it into a dormitory without permits. I guess they did it without permits.
Okay, so switching that around, they were designated as classrooms by permit and were turned into dormitories. And so this is just another thing that is going to have to be worked on with the city and get up to code and decide what to do with it.
Yeah, I feel hurt. That's my time too. But that's the bit of just the beginning of a long list of kind of steps that like Bill is talking about. Yeah, I feel hurt. Thanks, Sally.
So it's just the beginning of a long list of tasks before you. And anyway, so you feel heard, probably need to be heard for more. So I'm gonna go to Bill.
Listening, Sally.
Okay. Yeah, my video, somehow I turned that setting off. But let's see. Yeah, my visioning goes on because I envision a long-term idea that is tied into diversity and getting people used to loving other types of people.
So your ongoing visioning is going on, and what came up for you is diversity and creating a situation where people from different backgrounds can come together and love, peace, and harmony.
And love each other, love their enemy as themselves.
And love their enemy as themselves.
Okay. So you have all these attendees, they're going to the concert part, then they can break up into cultural dancing. And then after that, go into the big auditorium where you break down people into empathy circles with people as diversified as you can get.
So the idea would be there would be a concert, and then people would break out into groups doing cultural dancing, and then you'd bring them together in the big auditorium and start some empathy circles with as much diversity as you can get in the breakout circles.
Yeah, so while the concert is going on. There's a little bit of schmoozing, and people get to eat food from these kind of little, I don't know what you call them, just little stations where you can go and try out different types of food.
So you see that the concert goes on, and you would have little different kiosks where people could sample different types of food.
And then you go in when you decide you're ready, and you're in this big, I don't know what you call it, just a big, comfortable room, and you break down into, you find a group that wants to sit down with you, very culturally different from your own. And these people are coming from all over the world. And then you do the empathy circle.
So after when you're ready, you go into the big room. Not quite sure exactly, but it'd be big and comfortable. You find a group that does not match your cultural background, and you enter into an empathy circle with them.
Right. And so then you can go back to the concert, eat more, and it could even be a weekend event.
Right, and that can be extended with several concerts over a weekend.
Yeah. And I feel fully heard.
Good. Thank you. Sure, Sal. All right. Let's see. Brenda, you ready? You kind of came a little bit late. You ready to listen?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Okay. So I'll give you an overview. We're talking a bit, it's about the retreat center. And then I've been sort of Debbie Downer in talking about the practical aspects of it. And, and so that's where I'm focused. I'll stop there.
So I think I heard you say that you're talking about the retreat center.
Mhm.
And you have several emotions, and one of them could be preconceived as a Debbie Downer type situation.
Yeah, hard knocks. So what I see from what's been described is you take the 14 rooms, there's a kitchen there, there's a meeting room, there's really everything you need there. And that's the retreat center, phase one. Like you get that up. Don't worry about the other 60 rooms and stuff like that. That'll come. That's an expense. And that's expense that right now is not borne out by the the traffic, by people. So you start with that 14 rooms, meeting center, and that's the retreat center.
I think what I heard you say, according to your perspective, is what you see is starting with the 14 rooms because there's a kitchen and a meeting room. However, you feel like the space where there are 60 additional rooms need to wait due to cost and due to it not being utilized right now, I think is what I heard you say. So it will best to just utilize what you have for right now and get that foundation strong and then focus on the 60, I think what I heard.
Yeah, and this is not exclusive. There are the grounds are already beautiful. You already have a beautiful, scenery and things like that. But you get that, and now you have a small retreat center with 14 rooms, meeting room and a kitchen, and then you figure out, okay, what are you going to do there, and then you promote it.
I think what I heard you say is that the area right now is not exclusive, but it already is workable and ready to go like it is with the 14 rooms, the meeting room and the kitchen. So I think what I heard you say is utilizing that space first and finding out how that should be defined and utilized first before moving on to an expansion.
Yeah, exactly. And then part of that promotion would be, I mentioned that we would bring the empathy tent to the weekly art show in Santa Barbara. I'll stop there.
I think I heard you say you mentioned bringing the empathy tent to Santa Barbara, bringing the empathy tent to Santa Barbara.
Right.
See what that might look like.
Yeah, they have a weekly art show at the beach.
A weekly, A weekly beach art. I'm in.
Yeah.
I think what I heard you say, there's a weekly art show
Yeah.
at the beach with the empathy tent.
Yeah. And the other thing to generate is that I'd like to reach out to the Chumash Nation. That's the Native Americans that live in the area. And they have a model village in Malibu where by reservations you can attend. They have some Chumash replica buildings, and you can live a day in the life of a Chumash Native American.
Wow. I think what I heard you say in Malibu, California, the Native Americans have a place where you can actually come on site to their compound, their village, and stay for one day to see what it's like to live there. And I think what I heard you say is that there may be an opportunity to reach out to them regarding the San Bernardino Empathy Facility.
Yeah, Santa Barbara. Yeah.
Santa Barbara.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the big difference though, I know you don't live in California, but big difference. So the idea would be to get a Native American to do like an opening ceremony, which I think would generate, at least be worth a local paper story. And then to have, and I was seeing it like right next to the gym. There's like open flat area there, putting a few Native American buildings in there. And so now you have an ongoing attraction where people could come up and then see, and then also, again, by reservation, they could put on the same program that they do in Malibu in Santa Barbara.
I think what I heard you say, this is an opportunity to be inclusive to the Native Americans who are already there, who already have been there for a long time. But so an opportunity to engage them and to create a building near the gym in an area that they can feel comfortable with, and that can remind them of the facility that they have in Malibu, and also to bring them in to bless the facility in a way.
Yeah, thanks. I feel fully heard.
Okay. So, Sally, will you be my listener?
I'm right here.
Okay. I just had a wonderful time at church, and I'm glad you guys let me in. I'll stop there.
You just had a wonderful time at church, and I'm really glad that you were let in after.
Yeah. I was driving kind of fast to get home. So I am happy to be here. And regarding the empathy retreat in Santa Barbara, I think it's an awesome opportunity, and there's so many uses that could be available.
Okay, so regarding the this retreat in Santa Barbara, there are so many uses, and you're glad you were let in and could go to church.
Yes, one of the things I can say as far as usage, I could see it being a retreat. Like there are places that people like Ayana Van Zandt, Deepak Chopra, of course he has his own, but Ayana Van Zandt and other spiritual leaders, they have retreats in places like the Empathy Retreat in Santa Barbara.
Okay, so there's a lot of these leaders who are empathy oriented, like I am, who could utilize the retreat right there in Santa Barbara.
Right. There are spiritual leaders like Ayala Van Zandt and other leaders who do leadership type training, and they go to places like the San Bernardino Empathy Retreat.
Okay, so there are a lot of spiritual leaders like Ayana Zanfran who they go to a lot of retreats, and this is an ideal place for that to happen.
Yes, I think the facility has so many uses, but for me, myself, when I looked at it online, for me, myself, just speaking for myself, I already saw the room that I want to be in to write my book and to take a sabbatical.
So already you have found the room that you want to be in for a time in order to take your sabbatical and write your book.
Yeah, I think it's a great place for people to get away and to just even reflect, not just for sabbatical reason, but just to get away for just some me time. It's a me time type situation, even though, you know, the empathy listening, the empathy facility is what it is. It's also has, it could also have a use for other things, just for people to just power down mentally. You know what I mean? And the empathy circle is just a yummy treat since you're there, powering down.
So this concept of the empathy circle is really a yummy treat, but just the idea of using it to powering down and getting centered and finding yourself is really something you'd like to visualize as part of the whole
Yes,
center.
if a couple was having problems in their marriage, if a married couple were having problems and they were working with a counselor and getting through that, that would be a place that a counselor could come and bring the couple, and the couple could stay for a week, and all the fees and everything are included within that retreat. And in addition to them getting the counseling, they also get empathy listening circles.
So this idea of, like, you have a couple and they're having issues and they need to be in a setting with maybe a mediator, and also with the empathy circles, can take a week-long retreat and go to the facility and get to a place like a centering point.
I feel heard.
Okay. Wow. Larry. Larry, are you there, Larry?
Ready? Can you hear me now?
Okay. Oh, well, yeah, okay. I think that Brenda has just come up with ideas I never thought of. And I really like the idea. And I just see that, I don't remember what it was, the percentage of people that end their marriage in divorce, but it's a huge amount. And I suspect that they're all in the LA area.
So Sally, I'm hearing you say that Brenda's come up with some wonderful ideas, and think you're referring to the Couples Counseling Retreat Center. And you don't know the statistics, but there are a huge amount of marriages that end in divorce. And it just might be that that is the area, the LA area, I think you said, where a lot of couples could benefit from kind of a getaway retreat center where they could practice empathy circles and come together kind of thing. Something like that.
Yeah, and kind of center themselves together as a couple, see if they can get back to where they were before.
Mhm.
And maybe this wasn't thought of before, but to have like quarters that you could fill with a couple, and instead of these little single beds, but to have a king size bed or something like that. They pay, the appropriate cost, which I wouldn't want to think about in Santa Barbara. But anyway, just stop there.
So you're adding to consider the quarters where people could stay to be modified so that a couple could stay there, and to consider that a lot of couples could benefit from, you were saying, to get centered, to get back to where they were before. or to become grounded in an empathy circle setting, in a retreat center setting, just relax and unwind, get grounded, and come back to their natural empathic selves when they first said, I do, and then later thought, no, I don't. Something like that.
Well, let me just say that certain times of the year, the cost of a motel in Santa Barbara is $350 plus per night.
So the cost of a motel in Santa Barbara is $350 plus per night.
Yeah. But back to well, my dad had a patio and garden store, and whatever people are saying about being able to grow things, it's very doable. And not only that, my husband, he knows how to do the gray water lines where you can take the water from, well, when people take showers and wash dishes and all that kind of stuff, and that can water the gardens themselves.
And you're in the area of gardening, you're talking about how your husband is familiar with how to set up a gray water system to retrieve water that may have been used for something like washing dishes or something like that, and use that to water the garden. I think you're saying that, to use kind of a traditional kind of conservation of resources, permaculture approach to the gardening.
Yeah, and then there's the composting.
And then there's the composting.
Yeah. Okay, I feel fully heard.
Thank you, Sally. BJ, will you be my listener?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I'm really inspired by your idea of a kind of a counseling, centering vision.
I think what I heard you say, you're inspired by my idea of a counseling visualization center with the empathy.
Yeah, to use it for a retreat for counseling for couples, because there should be a lot of demand for that.
To use it as a facility for couples who are experiencing issues in their marriage, there should be a need for that.
Right. I think the statistics are something like about 50% of the marriages end in divorce. So this could almost beat the performance of the Catholic Church.
With 50% of the marriages failing, you feel like the facility could impact differently what the Catholic Church is experiencing when it comes to failures in marriage.
Right. This could be an actual rehabilitation center that actually works.
I think I heard you say it could be a rehabilitation center that actually works.
Yes. So I'm very inspired by this idea of doing couples counseling in a retreat center, and including, incorporating empathy circles into that.
I think what I heard you say, you think it's a great idea that for a counselor to come to the empathy center and bring their client with them, and also receive empathy listening circles after they finish their counseling.
Right, because that would be meeting a great need with a very practical application.
I think you said that would be great, meeting a great need with a very practical application.
Exactly. Thank you, Brenda. I feel fully heard.
Okay, all right. Jonathan, will you be my listener?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I've just been thinking about so much. This is such a great opportunity for the Santa Barbara area to be put on the map? I know they're already on the map, but this would be a great opportunity for them to be on the map.
So you're feeling very good about saying that this is going to be of great benefit to the people that live in Santa Barbara.
Yes, so one thing I was thinking about, not just, so a retreat for marriage counselors and their clients, but also motivational speakers who target like a certain group of people, not like Tony Robbins, okay, he has too many people. You know, he has a lot of people, no pun intended.
So you're saying that the idea of marital counseling is a good one, but also you want to point out that there's a lot of motivational speakers that need a place to present their ideas.
Yes, and some of the motivational speakers are leaders that target a certain group of people, which means I think I heard 60 rooms, so it would probably be like right at 60 or below because they target specific people.
And so you're saying that if the center was fully rehabilitated by having a dormitory and the additional rooms to accommodate upwards of 60 guests, that it might be an ideal number for a number of motivational speakers to present to.
Yeah, motivational speakers who target a specific group of people, motivational speakers who target a certain audience. Let's say, for example, there are ministers that take retreats. And when pastors and ministers take retreats, it's very specific, you know what I mean? And they go to places that are not near strip clubs and things like that, you know?
So what you're saying that in your life's experience, you've come across spiritual leaders and motivational speakers and presenters who would present to a group of people, and these people are selected in a way, and that the number of 60 seems to be just about the magic number for these types of retreats.
Yes, and I think for the retreat, in Santa Barbara, to be specifically catered to a certain group of people, like for example, Sarah Jakes Roberts, which is TD Jakes' daughter, he's a minister, you know, to cater to a certain, let's just say, for example, you want to cater to first ladies. This would be a retreat for all first ladies, wives of pastors. So if you're not a pastor's wife, you can't attend. You know what I mean? And for them to have the retreat there and then to turn around and do empathy listening circles, yeah, Santa Barbara would be on the map for sure.
So what you're saying that these would be essentially private rental engagements, and that a group would come in, rent the facility for 2 days, and bring their specifically targeted audience in to have a retreat.
Yes, because certain groups in society, like pastors' wives, it's a different type of, it's a select, I don't know how to explain, but it's a select group of people that their circle is different. You know what I mean? Their circle is totally different. So for a specific group of people like pastors' wives or pastors, this would be an awesome place for them to come and have whatever meeting they have. And then after that meeting, break out into empathy listening circles.
And so you think that there could be an opportunity to bring empathy, emphatic listening to a wider group of people?
Yes, because pastors are people too, and pastors need help. People don't understand. They need to power down. If people would just look at the suicide rate among pastors, they would be surprised. So there is a need for pastors to power down, not just take us aback, but to actually power down and to do empathy listening circles. I think will be awesome. I'll leave it there.
So you're specifically singling out pastors and their wives and families, and that it would be a benefit if there was a retreat for them to get away from their congregation and to experience something different, and as you're saying, power down so to speak.
I'll leave it there. I feel heard.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Gosh, hey, Bill, would you reflect for me?
Sure, Jonathan.
Um, I feel like sharing something. I was involved in Vallejo politics, and it got very messy.
So you wanted to share a story about Vallejo politics. You were involved in it and got very messy.
And there was a pastor who was targeted because of his beliefs.
So there was a pastor who was targeted because of his beliefs.
And I ended up bumping into him at Panda Express.
And you ended up bumping into him one day at Panda Express.
And we spoke, and he ended up inviting me to dinner. And so we sat down and had dinner together. And it was a lovely conversation. And I ended up being vilified for it.
So you saw him at Panda Express. He invited you to dinner. You went out to dinner with him. You had a lovely conversation with him, and then somehow you got vilified for it.
And let's move ahead 8 years.
Okay, moving ahead 8 years.
And he's living 2 doors down from me.
Okay, so he lives 2 doors away from you.
And he's been my good friend for the last 8 years.
Been a good friend for the last 8 years.
And when I was out gardening, he would drive by on his way to take care of his business. And we always wave at each other. And occasionally he stops. And it is so lovely having a good friend like him living 2 doors down that is part of the neighborhood. And it's just and so this was a very meaningful experience to me.
So he moved in 2 doors away. You're good neighbors. You see each other. He'll stop and socialize, and you feel that this enriches the fabric of your neighborhood, and you're very grateful for it.
Yeah. Now back to envisioning our retreat. I think that the time. I think that I think that the priority, as always, should be programming. And Edwin is in an enviable position because he is in the process of developing programming.
So you think that a lot of the main work of a retreat center is programming, and you feel that Edwin has expertise in that area.
And the struggles that I'm having in helping out in the Empathy in Schools project could be once I've gotten through that and created something, I think that it becomes kind of like a template for applying it for other areas.
So you're seeing that, the programming and promoting and stuff which you haven't done yet or haven't accomplished yet in Vallejo and in the East Bay that you're looking to do. But once you push through that and you get something started, that can be used as a template in other situations.
Yes, as I haven't shared with the larger group, I did just innocently talk to the director of the Senior Citizen Center in Albany, and he actually said he would love to have a live empathy circle group weekly at the Albany Senior Citizen Center.
Yeah. So you haven't shared this yet, but you had a talk with the director of the Albany Senior Citizen Center, and he would love to have a weekly empathy circle group there.
And so all of a sudden we're talking about a tremendous commitment of time and energy. And so I worry that I would like to see that the Santa Barbara project not eclipse the development on the local level of empathy groups in our community. And I go back to the idea of the podcast in saying that Edwin is a very valuable asset, and he should be promoting all of the local groups, which will become the feeder to the centralized group, if we can keep that group going. I mean, the Santa Barbara project.
Okay. So one of the things you realized with the weekly empathy circle at the senior center is that it very rapidly becomes a very big time commitment to keep something like that going. And so you would like to see, certainly in support of the retreat center, I sense, but you'd also not to lose sight of these local projects. And so you would look to, kind of do it. And you find that the podcast would be, with Edwin doing a podcast, would be an excellent promotional tool for both the retreat center and also local projects at the center.
So I feel heard. Thank you, Bill.
Okay, sure. All right. I'll go to Edwin.
Listening.
Okay. So, so I hadn't heard the latest about the guy, about the weekly empathy circles. I'm in. If Jonathan feels that I could be useful. And then the time commitment issue is initially, but you would also do a facilitation training. So you would train the staff and even some of the residents to become facilitators, so that it's not an open-ended commitment.
So you're in for this Albany Senior Center Empathy Circles, and you're explaining that you start with training people there how to take part in a circle. You do the training, and it becomes sort of a self-sustaining, so you're not like totally tied up for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and while and I think that the local projects, I think there's a positive feedback loop between the local projects, the retreat center, and back and forth. And so we should, like a podcast would be, one way to go with that. I don't know too much about it, but it sounds like, be fine. But then we look at, how we're promoting it. The promotions then fit together, and then we look at expanding in all areas.
Yeah, so you're sort of addressing Jonathan's concern that the retreat center, empathy center, doesn't eclipse all the energy, that there's something local, and you're seeing that it can be sort of mutually supportive. And
Right. So if we start to do like an empathy circle at the senior center, and we start to report, some good data, that rebounds to sort of like support the retreat center. And then if we take that and the retreat center becomes a place that is known more broadly, then that helps seed new local groups.
yeah, so you're seeing that local groups that form, they kind of support the retreat center, and the empathy retreat center supports these local groups. So it's, again, you're kind of going in deeper into how they support each other.
Right, and I think that some of the data you could take is similar to the happiness index that I put up after a training, where I think that you could reliably expect that seniors would not feel so lonely or isolated if they took place in an empathy circle, and I think that would be, you could get data on that.
Yeah, so you think you could get data on just showing that if people in a senior center did empathy circles, it would reduce loneliness, and you could sort of support that with data.
Yeah, and not only that, and I'm going a little bit further ahead of the research, but I'm also probably going to say that since we know how emotions affect longevity, you would probably have better health outcomes and longevity outcomes as well, but that would be a longer term study.
Yes, you're looking at studies that would show, better well-being and more longevity. And that's a longer term study to be able to prove that, but you really want to get the data on the study.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, and so then I'll go a little bit into like we talked about going down there, making a trip, and I'm a little confused because you weren't available, and so basically what I see in that trip is we'd go down, we would do some work about cleaning and putting stuff in the dumpster. We'd go check out the art festival, see what it is, get registered to get an empathy tent in there, and then we'd have a sort of an idea of when that 14 room wing might be ready and what we could offer as far as programming to start to get things moving.
Yeah, so you're saying the first step is just to go down, take a trip down there. It's been a bit vague, like when we could actually do it in terms of scheduling. Then we sort of check it out, check out the art center there with the empathy tent, and yeah, so just take those steps.
Thanks, I feel fully heard.
Okay, thanks. Larry, can I speak to you?
Yeah, ready.
Yeah, I very much see I think that having the retreat center set up is really going to help with the publicity, for the empathy movement in general. So it should really help all sort of local, smaller initiatives locally. I think it's going to give that legitimacy.
So Edwin, you can see that having the retreat center set up is going to help with the publicity, local and everywhere.
And I got so many different ideas. I can't get to them all in 5 minutes, but I'm sort of breaking it down into, conceptually the renovations and the fixing up of the property, and then empathy center projects. So those two different aspects.
So you're breaking it down to two different aspects, one being the renovation of the physical property, and then comes the empathy circles.
Well, it's the empathy center organization and all the programs that are under that.
Well, it's the empathy center program and everything under that.
Yeah, exactly. So I see I'm creating different sort of project groups that are under the empathy center. And one is like an initiative for maybe empathy-based mediation center as a project group.
So empathy-based mediation groups could be one of the projects under the empathy center umbrella, kind of.
Yeah, and Brenda and Kat, who was in the volunteers circle yesterday, and Linda are all, very steeped in mediation practices. So we form like a team, a committee team that's working to develop a whole program around that mediation.
So you want to develop a team of mediators, of which we already have experienced personnel within the empathy circle training. We want to create a team of mediators as one of the projects under the empathy center umbrella.
And then, it starts with a group of volunteers, but then we try to get funding. I think with the center, we can get, funding, get 100,000 or whatever, for that project. And then the people who are sort of running it, they can, get some kind of an income from it, as well as organize volunteers around it. So that would be like one project group.
So the people who are involved in this particular project may start out as volunteers, but you also see the possibility of getting some funding once the empathy center is up and running, getting some grants and donations and maybe 100,000. And then those people who were volunteering could get paid, and then they could get some volunteers to work for them.
Yeah. And then there'd be other project groups like Empathy in the Schools as a project group, with Bill doing that and having a team around that. So there's different project groups that are sort of self-contained entities, but, interacting with other groups.
And there would be various groups that interact with one another. Bill, for example, would handle the group for education.
And, I'm just making this up. So then Jonathan, senior centers, right? The whole group, we need empathy for seniors. So that's like a project group. And from what I'm seeing in these nonprofit books is you set up sort of centers like that within your organization, and then donors have certain things that they're interested in addressing, and they'll donate to those projects. Yeah, and it gives them a choice of projects to donate to.
And what you're seeing in the development of nonprofits is that donors could donate to the various projects. For example, Jonathan could potentially head up the seniors empathy circle groups and receive donations towards that.
Yeah, so that's sort of, and then there's the foundational organization that kind of deals with all the bookkeeping, just kind of helps those project groups sort of run. So anyway, that's kind of one model that I'm thinking of. And there could be a empathic permaculture center too, that's dealing with the farming on the gardening on the property, and then so that they can hold their own workshops. So you're kind of doing research, holding workshops, doing trainings, offering services within these different project groups.
So there's kind of an overall view of how it could be set up. They could also include the permaculture and organics, gardening, and yeah, all under one big umbrella of the Empathy Circle Center.
Yeah, that's sort of one idea I'm having now. So I feel heard. Thanks.
Okay, Sally, will you be my listener?
Yeah. I'm here.
Thank you, Sally. Well, on on the organic gardening side of things, I'd like to introduce a topic.
On the organic gardening component or idea, you want to introduce a topic?
Yeah, I think that healthy diet is essential to maintain the empathy center.
You think that healthy diet is essential for maintaining how the center is developed?
Yeah, I think that the health of everyone there is going to be, some ways determined by the food that they eat.
The health of everyone who is there and working there is determined by the food that they eat.
Right. And there's a food that I've come across that's not brand new at all, but I'm highly recommending it.
There's a food that you come across, not too new, but you're going to recommend it.
And it's called sourdough bread.
And it's called sourdough bread.
And if you make it organically and naturally, it actually can be antiviral and anti-carcinogenic.
And if you make it organically, it can be antiviral and anti-carcinogenic.
Yes, which is pretty surprising, I think. But I think the whole idea of eating organically is essential to everyone maintaining an empathic way of being.
And eating organically is essential to everyone's state of being.
Right. Thank you, Sally. I feel fully heard.
Okay. Oh dear. Jonathan, are you there? Jonathan.
I hope so.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I changed all these settings and now everything is not working. Okay. I have all these blasts from the past ideas. Okay. Well, I just thought of Isla Vista and organic farming because the two are synonymous with one another. At UCSB, there's Isla Vista, the community, and they have a lot of organic farms.
So you're saying that at the University of Santa Barbara at Ala Vista has a emphasis currently on organic farming, and so that it makes a nice fit.
Yeah, I bet that there would be a lot of kids that would be volunteers or head up programs that Kara comes up with, and maybe when she's not available. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
So what you want to re-emphasize is that the idea of integrating into the landscaping of the center gardens and especially edible gardens is a good idea, and that it could appeal to a lot of the students and the folks that live around Santa Barbara.
Yeah, and I also have to mention Santa Barbara City College, which has a younger population and with the same sort of state of mind of organic and the eco village concept, but probably would like to have like the CEU, whatever it is, in eco village and permaculture right out of Kara's program.
So you're also stating that in addition to the university, there's the community college, which has a large program, and that you think that a lot of the students there who are younger would be interested in any programming that the retreat center did that was related to growing food and sustainable practices.
And I would have to say with 100% probability that these programs do not exist at either Santa Barbara City College or UCSB.
And you're uncertain as to whether these programs exist as you're envisioning it at these two educational facilities.
I'd say it's very doubtful.
So you're emphatically saying that they aren't doing it.
Exactly. So it's a great opportunity. Okay, so back to sourdough. I think sourdough is incredibly difficult to do. Matter of fact, to me, it has turned into a nightmare.
So now you're returning to creating sourdough, and specifically, I guess, cultivating the, I guess, bacteria that causes the dough to go sour. And you say that it's very hard to manage a culture. I was looking for the word culture, and you think it's hard to do.
Okay, so culinary arts falls into another category for what Larry is talking about with these healthy choices that are gonna, well, I'm also just thinking about sauerkraut and making the just a lot of things that are necessary to be healthy. Kimchi.
So you're pointing out that here's another area that's worthy of consideration, which is, I guess, cultivating bacteria for different purposes, such as kimchi, sauerkraut, and of course, sourdough bread, and that's an interesting area.
Right, it's called culinary arts.
Culinary
And-
arts.
Yes, and so I'm just throwing it out there. No one's mentioned it yet.
And so you just wanted to share with the group the idea of having some programs designed around culinary arts.
Yes, thank you. I felt fully heard.
Well, thank you, Sally. Brenda, would you reflect for me?
Yes, thank you.
I'm going to just re-emphasize what I talked about a little earlier in that Edwin currently has a tremendous library of videos and is quite practiced in making these videos. But what I was hoping to say or to impress everyone with is that making a weekly podcast of much higher production value with the idea of a little bit more scripting and a little bit more forethought with the specific idea of having it being, I guess, a fundraiser and a focal point for the center might be a doable start with that could be done with existing resources with not much expenditure.
Okay, I think what I heard you say is that Edwin has several videos regarding empathy listening circles and the process and the procedures. And you feel like it would make a great difference regarding funds and raising funds and getting a more stable financial situation in place if he were to consider the podcast. And the podcast could be utilized as a fundraiser because of the content that's being put out.
Yeah. It's like, how do you get started on this mammoth project? Edwin is up here in the Bay Area with me and Bill. We're in the San Francisco Bay Area. And it seems like all the work that needs to be done is down in Santa Barbara.
I think what I heard you say is that you're in the Bay Area, Edwin's in the Bay Area, Bill's in the Bay Area. The Bay Area is considered San Francisco.
Yeah.
However, the empathy-based retreat is in Santa Barbara. So I think what you're saying is there's some distance there?
Quite a bit of distance and quite a bit of logistical difficulty.
Okay, so I think I heard you say logistically it's quite a ways away. There's some distance and logistically it's not feasible to be there on a regular basis.
Very difficult. Certainly for me, I'm a caregiver and I have a little window of opportunity, maybe another week and a half where I can be up in Vallejo. And that would be the only time this year that I could pull away for a week to go down to Santa Barbara and clean toilets.
I think what I heard you say is that you're willing to pitch in and help. However, because you are a caregiver, your schedule, you would need advance notice, number one, and that your schedule is such that you have limited time available.
Yeah. What's nice about putting a bit of energy into a really professionally done podcast is I think it could be done either there or up here.
I think what I heard you say regarding the podcast, you do not have to be in the same place, in the same space at the same time, and that logistically it could work because of automation.
Well, as we've seen with Zoom, currently all of Edwin's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos were mostly produced on Zoom.
Okay. I think you said most of all of Edwin's videos are produced on Zoom, and he has hundreds and hundreds of them.
Wonderful stuff, wonderful videos.
Wonderful Empathy Listening Circle videos and other things.
And here's the however. However, we have modern audiences that are looking for slicker production and a little less of the genuine honesty that occurs. It's an acquired taste watching all of these videos. It's not easy for young kids, let's put it that way. And I feel heard after you reflect.
Okay, your however is that though he has a lot of videos, I think what I heard you say with some of the younger audiences, they may become a little distracted. I think is what I heard you say.
Something like that. But thank you for listening.
Okay. All right. Edwin, will you, no. Larry, will you be listening?
Yes, Brenda.
Okay, so one of the things I want to say is that I want to share something with you all, is that the empathy-based retreat, no matter what you do, the foundation needs to be strong.
So Brenda, I hear you sharing that whatever we do, the foundation needs to be strong.
Yes. And I'd like to share with you Maya Angelou's one of my favorite quotes. She said, "People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And that's Empathy Listening Circles.
And you'd like to share one of Maya Angelou's quotes, and it has to do with people will forget what you said and what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
And with Empathy Listening Circles, I just want to say, Edwin mentioned project groups more than once. He said project groups regarding the elderly, project groups regarding schools, project group regarding mediation. And I was thinking that would be awesome. Those project groups are an excellent idea, and I like that premise.
And Edwin has mentioned several of the inspiring ideas that have come out of this empathy circle, like groups for the elderly, and I'm blanking on them. I've got them written down. The couples counseling, the circles for the elderly, the peace concerts, and the University of Santa Barbara, Isla Vista. All of these ideas that have come out of this empathy circle, Edwin has mentioned that several times there are projects that we need to lift up, and that these are part of the foundation, I think you're saying. I just realized I forgot to start the timer. Starting it now. Sorry about that.
Okay. And one thing I can say regarding Empathy Listening Circles and mediators, it's just been amazing that the past couple of years, well, 3 years that I've been online, due to the pandemic, I've met mediators who have become a part of Empathy Listening Circles, some of them right here in Texas, like Linda Bass, Deanna, and that we connect sometime through empathy, because of Empathy Listening Circles.
And being a mediator, you're meeting other mediators who are gathering in the empathy circles and meeting each other and receiving benefit from the empathy circles, and a community kind of a mediators developing around that, it sounds like.
Okay, so regarding the empathy-based retreat and project groups with mediation.
So regarding this group related to mediators developing.
Regarding the project groups for mediators Ed mentioned Linda Bass. She's a mediator. I'm a mediator, and there are like 4 others that I know. So I think that will be an awesome project group, and I'm all in.
So regarding a project for mediators, you're all in. There are like 4 of mediators already involved in empathy circles. And it sounds like a really great way to, create a project related to mediation and bring that into the empathy envisioning circles center.
Yes, because with mediation and empathy listening circles and the project group, one thing I thought about immediately was how the HR managers and directors need help.
And the HR managers need help. And this could be that help
Yeah, as a project group participant.
as a project group of participants.
Yeah, now regarding food and sustainability at the empathy-based retreat, I don't know if you guys ever heard of Sadhguru. He's an Indian mystic and guru. That's just what he is, Sadhguru. He's a guru.
So
So
related to the organic gardening and Sadhguru. You're
Yes.
mentioning Sadhguru.
yeah, and I was just thinking, this particular empathy-based retreat would be global if it was just like nothing but plant-based fruits and vegetables and just plant-based.
Mhm.
That would be an awesome thing, I think, for people who visit or people who come to the empathy-based retreat.
Mhm. And to make this a plant-based kind of vegan diet could be awesome for international groups to visit.
People who are vegan or people who are trying to get off of meat, it would be an awesome place for them to come and just power down and have empathy listening circles.
For sustainability of the planet projects, getting away from the SAD, sad American diet, standard American diet, which is SAD, sad, and causes a lot of illness. It would be great to create that kind of a movement in the Empathy Center where people who want to live sustainably could envision that and practice that and teach that and share that.
I feel heard. I'll stop there because you didn't set the clock.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. How are we doing on time? Is it about that time? Speaking of time?
Sorry, I got my windows went all weird. Yeah, we could just sort of do a little bit of a, I don't know if we really need a debrief. I thought maybe I would show you the property, like just to, get kind of work your way into it more. And then we can have a debrief at the very end. So let me just share this. So this is the Google Earth, 3D view of it. And all these windows pop up here. So this is the part that's the dormitory that needs renovation. And then there's a library here, and this was supposed to be classrooms here. And then this part over here is a chapel. And it holds 200 people in the chapel, and underneath is a basement, and that basement has sort of a sort of a big meeting room that we want to put in wood floors in there, so it could be someplace for dance, yoga. And then in the back here, there's a little room that's a really nice meeting room, because that needs to be fixed up, because then you can walk out to this lawn. And on this lawn, we're talking about putting a swimming pool in here. So you'll be able to, look out over Santa Barbara and the ocean. In terms of other buildings here, so this building here used to be where the priests lived. So they had these really big rooms. And it's really the like the staff room facilities. There are about 7 bedrooms in this building here, and that's all been renovated and able to be used, and those rooms need to be furnished. The groundskeeper lives there. I got one of the rooms too that I've been kind of fixing up for myself, because I'm going to be going down there a bunch, or maybe even staying there permanently. This here is there's a kitchen, kind of an industrial kitchen in this area here. Then there's two kind of dining rooms that are pretty big dining rooms, and also for meeting rooms. And then this part here had been when it was the seminary, they had nuns. There was room for 7 nuns. They were sort of like a self-contained unit here. They had their own, washing and stuff. And then they were the ones that took care of, I think, stuff like the kitchen and so forth. And there's a nice meeting room here. It's all been renovated. So this wing is pretty close to being usable. It's currently, these rooms are full of all the furniture that we carried out from under in the area under the chapel, the recreation room or multi-purpose room. It was just, they had stored furniture, where we moved it all into these rooms to sort of sort it. Right here, we've been putting a container, those big 8-foot high, 20-foot long container, and just throwing stuff out, kind of getting rid of it. And then there's a gym here, like it's big enough it's a 2 basketball court gym, big gym. And in the front is a little room here, and I was thinking that could be actually sort of like an art center, right? We get some community, somebody that's like an art director, and they could have different art activities in here. And in the back, in the back of the gym are 2 rooms. One is like a weight room, and the other has all kinds of sporting supplies. And while this looks flat right now, I don't know, somehow when they were doing some renovations, they piled up huge pile of dirt here. So it's not a flat area anymore. We have to figure out what to do with that dirt. In terms of like permaculture, I'm thinking, back along this side here would be a good place for permaculture, some kind of a permaculture, like some sheds or section here for gardening and stuff. And by the way, those trees right there are like orange and lemon trees. And we've been also looking at this parking lot. The parking lot's been paved over, and several people have mentioned, kind of getting rid of a lot of the parking spots to make it more of a garden area. Like this here is a 70-foot by 70-foot garden area. Right now, everything's dead there. But to kind of move that farther, get rid of some of the parking so that it just has a loading zone. Because right now it looks kind of like a motel, if like those drive-in motels. You feel like you're in sort of a motel with all that parking, right there by the rooms. So maybe if we got rid of half of that and just had, accessibility parking and a loading zone, that might kind of shift the whole feel, that there's a garden, more in the center. And in this area, this lawn here could also be sort of a garden area. So maybe make the whole courtyard a garden. And and maybe even instead of it being paved, it could be kind of like cobblestone, something like that, to shift out motel feeling. Because the property it feels very institutional. It has a real sort of a institutional kind of it's like the schools I went to school in, growing up. It's just, they're flat. Has a real institutional. It's not like a very elegant space. And this is the loading zone here. So they like for it drives up to the kitchen. There's a kitchen back here, and you can, and that's, yeah, and so this is the staff room again, and then all this this hill, the hill, I'm kind of envisioning it being terraced over a 10-year, 15-year period, and putting in, gardens, planting trees and stuff on this terrace property. I mean, on these terraces and stuff. So you can see it backs up to this national forest. So there's that national forest back there. Oh shoot, it's always. And then the let me see, the view is pretty, pretty amazing, because you're down here and you're up above, it's above Santa Barbara. So that's all Santa Barbara, and you see the ocean, and then those islands out there. And from here to downtown Santa Barbara is only like 10 minutes. So it's not like, it's kind of remote, but it's not so remote. And all the stuff in yellow is the property. So all this stuff can be used somehow. It's all becoming overgrown with chaparral. This is like an old picture. So it's because of the rain. They used to have goats in here that would eat the brush, to keep the brush down, because there's super fire danger. They've had multiple fires, back here, and there had been a fire that had gone through. It had burned down some houses nearby, but it didn't burn down this. But it's like, that's a real big concern, is fire danger. So I don't have any questions about the property, or just wondering.
I think you should map out the Natural History Museum and the Botanical Gardens, and the relationship and the distance, because and the mission, because these are all tourist locations that, well, there's the Granada Theater, so there's things that you're gonna wanna have like in a map. And then also, I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but you're gonna have like a traffic study to understand how many people are gonna be arriving and staying.
Yeah, those are all, they call that the conditional use permit. So there's a certain limit on the amount of people that can stay there. And that's something we're still trying to figure out.
But anyway, you kind of want to have that all figured out.
Yeah, and I'll just mention there is a botanical gardens, and it's right here. So when you drive up, up this road here, and then if you turn left up Mission Canyon, there's a big botanical gardens right there. So that's a big tourist attraction. Then but if you turn right, you're going up Rattlesnake Canyon. So this is Rattlesnake Canyon that goes around the side. And that's only like a few minutes drive from here to here. So to the botanical gardens is probably like 5 minutes, 6-minute drive. Yeah, Bill?
Oh, I just wanted to throw in, just brainstorming, is putting in the pond and the aquaculture maybe in that courtyard that's dead now. Because I just looked at that would be an excellent area, so near the chapel.
Yeah. Oh, the chapel?
Yeah, near where the old 70 by 70 area is.
Oh, right in the middle here.
Yeah, that's it. So pond in the middle of that, and then each of those semicircles can have some, some vegetables and things like that.
Yeah.
And that would be a nice focal point to start to change that.
It's like how to capture the water. We're looking at this we just connected with, we connected with this, with two permaculture sort of experts in the area, and this one is 7th generation, and they just gave us a bid for doing a site analysis. So they, kind of do property, they analyze the property. They, can help with some design, so for permaculture design, and then they'll also do some of the work. So what I'm sort of imagining is, we get a design, now we get the site analysis, maybe a basic design, and then we look for someone, kind of a live-in, one or two people who are sort of the directors of the permaculture, and they kind of do the work, and then develop some trainings and workshops and stuff. Plus, I'm hoping that these organizations, these other permaculture people will come and do permaculture. You can check their site, 7thgenerationdesign.com, and we had talked to them, and so, and I just said real quick here, this is the route to Oprah's house. It's 16 minutes away in Montecito. She has $100 million estate here. So, and Dwayne was like, yeah, you got to get Oprah involved in this. So I think so. If she would say, hey, this is a great center here, just put it on one of her shows, man, that would really make it. So, but it's a great, if you look at if you go and check the tour, on the website, check the tour, you can just click through and you can kind of scan all the neighbors and the areas. It's just amazing to see what kind of houses there are. And this here is kind of a photo, kind of just the photographs. Like that was the storage area. Oops, that's that little room I was mentioning in the back of the chapel underneath. And this is like a great, some kind of a workshop room. And then when you want to take a break, you just walk out and, there's the view there. And this is, that's the chapel, inside the chapel. So it's got sort of a marbleized floor, holds 200 people. The basement, you can see all this furniture we moved. Charles and I were there. We went and physically moved all that stuff, put it into and this is a nice little porch here that's for sort of staff space, and you can get a sense of the renovated room. In fact, I think that's my room right there. So they're big rooms for the staff, like almost 400 square feet rooms, pretty amazing. And that's the dining room. So, and that's the kitchen. So you can see, let me make that a little smaller. You can see it. So it's an industrial, big kitchen and anyway, there's just tons of, pictures. There's a library there and stuff like that. So anyway, just wanted to give you a little tour so you can kind of get a bit of context for the space. Oh, and let me just show you this. This is what the dormitories were like. So this was the old dormitories. You can see they had like seminarians, priests, like people learning to be priests. And they just had everything divided by curtains. So people had their own sink and a bed here. And this is all, so they divide that by two. So we need to kind of renovate. That's downstairs. Yeah, so we need to renovate all this. So it's all got to be torn out. That's kind of like the biggest project. And yeah, so that's just some of the nuts and bolts.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead. Anybody jump in. Yeah.
I'd like to say the facility is really, really nice, and I'm sure it's going to do really, really well. But I just still go back to the foundation. Like when somebody drive up, they need to be blown away of the entrance, and that will take care of everything else. I'm not saying it needs to be like a hotel, but I think the entrance is really nice. And I really like what Bill had to say regarding that. And there's area, I mean, it is so nice. I just saw, as you were giving us the tour, I was thinking, okay, that's the community garden. Okay, that's where the pool's gonna be. I mean, it's gonna be really, really nice. But like I said, I think the entryway should be similar to a hotel, but just on a more serene level.
Yeah.
That's just my thought.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like it's very institutional feel when you drive up now. So we need to really make it, you know, add some kind of a beautiful landscaping or some permaculture, you know, something that just makes it, you know, really attractive and has that first impression. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a serene idea that Bill had. I like that.
I hate to be kind of a Debbie Downer again.
Don't
But-
have to, everybody's
Everybody's-
apologizing.
I claim that. I'm Debbie Downer.
Bill's an official
Not
Debbie
here.
Downer.
Donnie Downer. Okay. But go to some hotels and motels in Santa Barbara and see what they look like, because this is horrible. People who are wealthy will not stay here, and you want to attract wealthy people. And you know, the Hilton, Holiday Inn, even Motel 6 there is unbelievable because it's Santa
Yeah.
Barbara.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's you know, Santa Barbara is a beautiful place. The landscaping is great, and this is this is not a wealthy looking space. It's a beautiful place, but it needs a lot of work to beautify it. So I want to keep us on time. We're going over, so great. Thanks everybody for joining us. This was great doing just a small group to brainstorm like this. We'll continue next week. Also on Friday, if you can come to our volunteer group, same time as this, where it's like taking on projects. So I think everybody was here except Jonathan and Brenda. If you want to come, you know, you could actually start thinking about the mediation, you know, project, you know, taking on projects like that or whatever. So thanks everybody, and see you next week.
Well, y'all have a good weekend, and due to my schedule, I probably won't be able to make it on Friday, but Saturday I'm good.
Okay, great. See y'all
Thank
next
you.
Saturday.
Thank you,
Thank
Bill. I'll be in touch.
Great. Okay. Look
I
forward.
appreciate you.
Um,
Bye.